beware spoilers. I am Adam. Let's discuss West Side Story, which I have now seen. Now, I'm conflicted as to how I approach this, because maybe it's just the fact that I didn't see the 1961 one in theater because it predates me by 32 years, or 33 years. But I've seen it. I have seen the original. I've never seen it performed on stage because my high school never put on West Side Story while I was there. And, you know, it's one of those things that, like, it's kind of like a perennial favorite for schools to put on. But I think that, like, how do I put this? Maybe it's the fact that I was sitting in a theater watching it and looking at it through a critical eye with the intent to not poke holes in it, but to, like, be like, it feels like there's like, parts missing, and it's making me want to rewatch the 1961 one, because it's been, I don't know, 10 years since I watched that movie in its entirety, straight through, without getting up, and it's funny, because it's like, I remember there's an intermission in that movie, and it's 2.5 hours long, and I'm like, oh, you're so funny. This one's even fucking longer, and there's no intermission. But the point of the matter is, everyone in the theater seemed to really like the movie, because the movie it's not a Gus Van Sant joint where it's like, you know, when he remade Psycho, it was a one-for-one remake, where if it happened in there, it happened again. And this is not a one-for-one remake, as evidenced by the fact the movie is 3 minutes longer than the original. But I don't know, what's the right way to put this? How do I describe my problem with this movie? It feels like there are things that could have been better laid out that aren't. Like, for example, I think that, like, at the core of this movie's core is about race relations, and in the play and in the original movie, it's kind of very clear that these are two conflicting street gangs who are having this confrontation. I refuse to call it a rumble. Holy fuck, that annoys the fuck out of me, and I was like, oh, maybe they'll fix it this time. No, it annoys the fuck out of me that it's called a rumble the entire way through. Because it's just such a weird terminology that it just doesn't click for me. I have a problem with that. I'm not going to fault the movie for that, because it's not the movie's fault, because it's a remake, but it still annoys the living fuck out of me. But the issue is, this movie is kind of very explicit in the fact that the white kids are all in a street gang, and that's an explicit plot point that is seen, developed. There's a hierarchy of who's in charge and what's going on, and it's like they are there to fuck up the lives of the Puerto Ricans who are living in the area. That is very clear, very explicit, and very easily laid out. The great sin on the other side, as far as is shown in the movie, is like the Puerto Ricans are trying to live and are like, these white guys are pieces of shit, so maybe let's not deal with them. Like, you know, it's like, literally what the big fight comes down to is like, we want your land if we win, and if we lose, we'll leave you alone. It's like, what the fuck? It's like, and yet they're shown to be, you know, kind of equal, and that's the thing, is I keep using terminology where it makes it seem like the Puerto Ricans are some big street gang, when that's not the way the movie kind of relays that information. Like, when we get to the 2-hour mark, and we get to the point where we're at the point where, you know, everyone's getting ready to go to the fight, it's like, well, what the fuck, like, the Puerto Ricans aren't, like, you know, it's not an organized street gang, and at no point does it seem like an organized street gang. It seems like this is the guy the neighborhood kind of picked to represent them in this matter, so that way they would not get completely, like, what's it called, like, that way they wouldn't get their asses kicked constantly, or, like, have their murals painted all over, or, like, have their businesses robbed by these fucking white kids. Like, I don't understand. I like, like, the thing is, you can completely remove the Jets and the Sharks from this movie, and it still works. And it kind of makes me question why they're there at all in this iteration. Because when you do a remake, like, there are two approaches to take a remake from. There is the approach where you can take a story and tell it with, the benefit of hindsight, or the benefit of what's going on now, and how does that kind of reflect, and how does it paint a picture in a different way? How do we reframe it in today's world? That's one way to handle it. And then there's the artsy way where it's like, I think like Gus Van Sant, or like the money grab way where it's like, this sold the first time, let's sell it again. And it's like, just tell a good story. If you're going to do a remake, I think, and you're going to do a remake with a topic like this, there's an ambulance passing me. If you're going to do a remake with a topic like this, in this current political climate, and you don't address that, it kind of just feels like you're doing a bigger budget version of the movie from 1961. And that doesn't, work for me. If you look at other movies that have been remade, they have been kind of adjusted slightly to fit in with what we can do today, not just with technology and cinematic, with technology and cinematic, cinematic standards of what we would, do today, but also, what is the message being relayed? Like, there are some movies that came out in the 50s and the 60s and even earlier that are ripe for remaking, because they have poignancy today like they did back then. Like, The Roaring Twenties with James Cagney from 1939, I believe, or 38, is a movie about a guy who he was in the Army, he comes back from the Army, VA isn't helping him out, he ends up turning to crime, and then because he turns to crime and he gets arrested, he ends up, in this circle, and like this vicious cycle of just stuck in the prison system, and then back out, and how it pushes him deeper and deeper into this life of crime that he didn't want to get into in the first place. And that's something that it's almost 100 years later, yet that movie still works if they remade it today. There's that. There's a Snake Pit, which is about asylums and how we care and treat our people with mental issues, and that's something we still deal with today. And yeah, we don't have the asylum system that we did then, or like fucking Arkham Asylum in Batman, but still, we have problems dealing with those who have mental illness, and not just mental illness, but you can do it with addiction and other things. What was it? Elmer Gantry, which is a movie, I believe that was a 50s movie, about a man and a woman who were basically snake oil salesmen, or televangelists. They're televangelists, like proto-televangelists, and like you can do that story and have it work, and do a remake of that movie for the modern era. You can do a remake of what's the name of the movie of Born Yesterday, about a woman who her boyfriend or husband's a crime boss, and he thinks she's too stupid to do things, so he hires someone to teach her things so she can help run the business while he's away in prison. Like, these are all movies that were done then and would still work now with the new modern lens. And West Side Story is one of these movies too. Like, it would work with a modern lens. And the thing is, I'm not saying you need to even age it up and take it out of the 50s, which is when this movie takes place. But the issue is, if you're not going to do that, if you're not going to treat the material as a roadmap and then kind of, not tell a new story, but, make the story relevant to today, and make it where, as an audience, we can see the story and be like, oh shit, this is a mirror to society as we see it, then what's the point of making a remake if for no other reason than to grab money from something else? And I know Spielberg wanted to do this. Spielberg had never made a musical before, and I know there's definitely a case to be made that, it was that artistic endeavor where it's like, this is a classic musical. Like, Spielberg is, I think at this point we can say, the greatest director. Or if not the greatest, because I think someone who's a big Orson Welles fan would probably give me a fucking attitude about that, but, he's definitely the most versatile. in terms of you can give him any fucking, like, historical drama, you can give him a science fiction, you can give him a fantasy, you can give him a family movie, you can give him anything, and he will make a hit out of it. And I think that this is, this is his first musical, and it works. And I just, like, if that's what this was, and it was Spielberg saying, I want to see if I can make a musical and make it work, well, I guess he succeeded. But if that's the only thing, and that's what we're going out to see this movie for, I don't think it's worth seeing in a theater to be like, well, can he do what they did 60 years ago? Like, well, yeah. But at the end of the day, it's like, I've seen this movie before. Like, if you're not going to break new ground in a remake, then you're not fulfilling a need. Like, you could have done this same thing with a movie that wasn't West Side Story and, either remade or adapted something from stage to screen. Like, do you know how many fucking plays there are that have never been made as a movie? Like, and the thing is, too, it's so superficially, it's superficial in its message, because it doesn't update the message to match where we are as a society today. And I think that that's a fundamental problem, especially considering it kind of lives or dies based on its message. So, and again, choreography, like, I'm not, like, the profound issue I have with this movie is there have been a few movies that I've discussed where it's like, we shouldn't have to beg the question of why should this movie exist. I hate asking that question, where it's like there should be no profound issue of why are we watching this? Why does this movie exist? What is the purpose of telling this story? And it's like that's a question that goes into really every movie, but it becomes more pronounced with, say, this, with, like, Solo, with, like, other things like that, where it's like, why am I watching this movie? What is the intent of putting this movie out now? And this one, because it doesn't change, it doesn't answer that question. But that doesn't diminish what was made. It just kind of makes it where it's like, okay, cool, like, now what? Like, you didn't do anything new. And that's not to say that, like, most of the cast is great. Like, there is one exception in the lead. Like, Rachel Zegler is a fantastic find. And it's like, I'm looking forward to seeing what they have her do in Fury of the Gods and as Snow White and, whatever other, endeavors she may go on from here. Because she's got a voice, she has stage presence, she's a good actress. Just a fantastic all-around find by Spielberg. And I think the rest of the cast really does well. I think Ansel, like, when Rita Moreno tells him that Maria died, his breakdown, and I'm not spoiling anything because this movie's fucking 60 years old at this point. The play's even older, and it's based on fucking Romeo and Juliet. So, I'm not breaking any new ground here, hopefully, to anyone who has not yet seen this movie. Because I don't think there's a world in which you see this movie without having some knowledge of what this movie is going into it. I feel like despite everything that this movie has going for it, it doesn't answer the question why, which is a big problem. And I think that's ultimately the thing that makes it hard for me to enjoy this movie, is that when we talk about people not giving, opportunities to new directors, they gave Steve, and look, it's great. I mean, not just her, but I feel like a few of the other kids in this movie are going to have, not major careers in the way she's going to, but are going to have some career in some form, going on past this movie. And I think that, I feel like it's one of those things where it's like, at the end of the day, there was a better thing to be done here. I don't think it's necessarily, they could have done a longer version, I feel like, and moved on. I think the extra 3 minutes was just a new song that they were putting in to try and get a nomination for Best Original Song. I don't know. I feel like I have. I just have, like, it's not complex feelings, because it's just a tough to articulate feeling, I think, more than anything else, where it's like, I can't, like, there's an, why should the movie exist? It's not a question I like asking, but what is the message the movie is trying to send, or what is the existence of this movie? What is the point of its existence? And what message is it trying to send by its existence is kind of an important question. And I don't think this movie really answers that, besides Steven Spielberg wanted to make a musical. Like, which, okay, but, like, in this era, where we are now, in America, and you know, and all of that, just doing a straight 1-to-1, not quite 1-to-1, I would say, like, 1 to 1.5 remake of West Side Story doesn't feel right. It feels like you're kind of just, like, it feels very both sides-ish, but, like, in this movie, we don't see, like, the movie opens with the white kids harassing the Puerto Ricans, and really all the Puerto Ricans are like, you know, we should really stay with our own, because these white kids keep annoying and harassing the fuck out of us. Like, it's not like, you know, a race thing. It's more of a, for our longevity, and so we don't get assaulted or robbed, or at one point, you know, there's nearly a fucking gang rape. Like, there is no, like, reason why this was the way it is. Like, there is no, like, I guess I feel like there was a better way to do this movie. And I hate taking off points for saying there was a better, like, I don't like taking points for rewriting. I feel like I should be watching the movie for the movie. But at the same time, that's kind of a key thing. Like, you know, if the writing is that problematic, not problematic, but, like, if the writing is that much of an issue that it interferes with enjoyment, then I get you can't not acknowledge it. And it's not that the writing is bad, or that anything that Stephen Sondheim did was bad, or the anyone who wrote the plays originally, or wrote the 1961 screenplay, or directed the 1961 movie, or anything like that. It purely comes down to the problem of it's not updated to reflect where we are today. And that's at the end of the day the key issue that they haven't addressed. Had they addressed that, or had they done something with that, or taken full advantage of the fact that, like, look, we are looking now at 1957, at the 50s and all of that. We're looking at this era now with the benefit of hindsight. There's more we can do here. We're looking at it through the lens of where we are today, which is like BlacKkKlansman does that. It's a dramatization, to be sure, of a story that, you know, really happened, and it's based on a real story, but some of its aspects are brought, I don't know about out of proportion. I don't know the true story, but some things were brought about to a, you know, to a degree for drama's sake in a movie, but at the same time, it's still telling, like, it still looks at things with that lens. Like, there's a great scene in BlacKkKlansman where, they juxtapose a Klan rally and a meeting of this, I forgot what the group's name is, that, maybe it was just the Black Panthers. I don't remember, I watched the movie so long ago. But the scene really stuck with me, where they juxtapose the meeting of the protesters with the Klan meeting. And it's designed to show it's not equal on both sides. And that's the thing, is it's like, you know, a lot of it is like, it does that in this movie, where it's like, it's not equal, but, like, the dialogue and nothing matches that portrayal, that it's like, it is an uneven thing. It's like, it feels kind of weird that we're keeping it the way it is. So yeah, so we'll wrap up there for today. I'm going to watch Being the Ricardos tonight. I'll do a review tomorrow morning. And then we'll be back with Hawkeye next week. And I will get around to finishing up Wheel of Time. Please do not keep reminding me in my email. I know I have to do Wheel of Time. So we will wrap up there for today, and we'll be back tomorrow morning with Being the Ricardos. So until then, have a great rest of your week.